Also, these are just the 3 games that we happen to catch. Like, if they've already taken this stuff down, and so many, like 3 really big name titles, what are the smaller ones that went by unnoticed that nobody caught?
Disney Tsum Tsum 2 Tsu. Oh my god. I'm sorry for my dying laughter. Hello, my beautiful shy guys and shy girls. Welcome to the Nintendo Everything Podcast, episode 23. I am your host, Oni Dino, and with me I have the inspiration for that one shy guy from Paper Mario that you had to bake the cake for. It's Galen.
Hey everybody, how's it going today?
Right off the bat, I have to apologize for the quality of my voice. I am sick AF. I also went out yesterday and had way too many drinks. Don't have many memories, but I've seen a lot of the text messages I sent, and I'm like, ooh, can't emotionally deal with that right now.
I can honestly say that I've never had... Okay, correction. I have had enough drinks once that I have lost memories of the night.
I think I've been with you on at least 2 occasions that you have, so that's a lie. The lie detector test says that is a lie.
All right, Mari. Yeah, no, you were there for the one time that I started to stop remembering stuff.
Yeah. Should I tell the story right now?
I mean, if you want to. My wife gets mad every time she hears that story.
Every time I think of it, I die inside a little bit because of the embarrassment that I feel. You threw up all over my friend's shoes. That's the worst part of it.
I threw up all over strangers' shoes, too. I felt so bad.
I mean, you could not have picked a worse place to throw up at. It was really bad. Oh, God. All right, we can't tell this story. I'm already dying right now. I may only have an hour left to live, so let's get through this podcast so I don't die on air. Galen, what you been playing this week?
So I need to take a break from Tetris 99 because I'm seeing Tetraminos fall in my sleep at this point.
Oh, that reminds me of DDR back in the day.
Right? Like, you play it so much and all of a sudden you're starting to see little arrows fly up out of nowhere. So, yeah, ever since the Gearbox announcement last week, I have actually been playing Borderlands 2. I picked up that again. And I thought that I was going to be, like, I didn't know where I was going to pick up from it, if I was going to start a brand new character, but then I remembered it had the Hard Plus mode, so I just kind of did my New Game Plus, and I've been having a lot of fun at that.
What is Borderlands 2 about? It's a loot shooter. Not a loot shooter. This is before loot shooters were a thing. It's a...
No. It was the one who created the loot shooter, for all intents and purposes. So... Well, the original Borderlands was. Yeah, you play on an alien world that is overrun by monsters and bandits, and think of like a more comedic version of like Mad Max or something like that. It's got like a really weird, twisted sense of humor. Like there is an episode, or there's a side quest you can do called Johnny Mick shoot him in the face, and he just dances back and forth and says, hey, shoot me in the face, shoot me in the face, shoot me in the face, and then you shoot him in the face, he dies and says thank you, and that's it. You get like 500 experience for it. It's such a weird, bizarre thing, and he doesn't attack you, he's just dancing back and forth, and it's like, what the heck was that all about? There's no explanation to it. Yeah, it's so weird.
Just weird whimsical murder parties.
No, it's one of those games that I have never seen a game that has quite replicated its style in the best of ways. I mean, that is the highest compliment that it can be.
Oh.
Yeah. Oni, what have you been playing when you haven't been dying and forgetting things and sending text messages?
So in between all of that, I have been just keeping going with Chocobo's Mystery Dungeon. That is a very easy game to just turn on when you want your brain to turn off. I'm not going to say too much about that because I already talked about it a bunch on the podcast last week. But it's still just solid, good, fun gameplay. And the story is so strange, though, because I'm like constantly thinking, have I forgotten the story? Have I missed something? You're introduced to characters as if you've already known them. It's it really is a bizarre feeling, and sometimes it feels really good, like a Twin Peaks kind of weird thing, and other times it's just like, what's missing? Something big is missing right here. So anyway, thankfully the gameplay is real solid, real fun and addictive. I'm gonna keep going with it, and I'll let you know. I'll let you know whether I'm crazy or whether the game is crazy.
Well, you're definitely crazy.
Yeah, spoiler alert, right? Let's hop on over to the news for this week, shall we?
Let's do it.
Mamma mia!
So earlier in the week, we got some yet unconfirmed leaks from Best Buy on Persona 5 for the Switch, Metroid Prime Trilogy for the Switch, and also, the weirdest one yet, Zelda, A Link Between... Wait, hold on. A Link to the Past for Switch. Now, some of these came out with photos taken, like with a cell phone camera or something, of a Best Buy employee using, like, a employee portal on their work PC. And it looks pretty legit from those kinds of photos. There's some additional ones that came out later that are just like a screen capture sort of thing, and those are so easy to fake that, like, I'm just like, whatever. But these pictures of the employee portal are pretty convincing. Now, we have just a bit of insider information on this. Not really. But Galen...
From a past life.
Yeah, in a past life, when you were a terrible employee at Best Buy, right?
I was an amazing Best Buy employee. What are you talking about?
So I want to ask you about the validity of these kinds of photos. Do they look familiar to you based on your knowledge?
So, to be completely honest, everything that I'm seeing, I don't know what they mean by employee portal, like employee computer. Because the main usage that most, at least when I worked there, grain of salt, I worked there about 8 years ago, so I can guarantee you the system's changed since then.
Wait a second, 8 years ago? I thought it was more like 4.
No, it was... Oh wait, maybe it was 4 years ago.
What?
Like I said, another lifetime. Anyway. Yeah, the employee system doesn't really contain any information or anything like that. In fact, most employees, they just pull out their own phones or they go to a computer and look at Best Buy's website. Like, like the same one that you and I would go to. Most of the screenshots that I'm seeing, especially ones with the prices, like I'm looking at this one here with a listing of it, no image on the listing. Says Persona 5 for the Nintendo Switch, $59.99. This looks like something that you would just like click to pre-order for or order for a customer. So
okay, but by the way, I'd like Persona Phona. That's a good one. And I think that we should
Persona
go with
Phona.
It. Yeah, use it.
Maybe that'll be the mobile version of it.
Oh, oh, that's really good. Hey.
So that is my own 2 cents when I hear the words like internal system. It sounds like it's just from their website, guys. It's not like that, secretive of information. Now,
but if I remember
wrong,
right, though, this people were not able to recreate the URLs or something like that.
Well, and that's because when they update the website, once they realize it, like in a second when it starts to go around, and then they shut that stuff down. And they take those listings off.
Okay.
Yes.
So maybe it's that situation. But at the same time, this could also be some sort of employee, like an internal admin kind of position where they are the ones creating these listings, right? So it could be somebody that had different permissions than you did.
Now, and I do see another one here that is actually from their point of sale system. Again, this is referencing Persona 5. So, I mean, it's entirely possible, but whether or not this came from an employee terminal versus something that somebody just happened to see at the right time at the right place when they were online, corporations like Best Buy and Target and GameStop, they sometimes pre-game themselves, and what they'll do is when they hear rumors of something, they enter in the name of it into the system as more of a placeholder, more than anything else.
Actually, a great example of this is back when the Switch was announced, their like January announcement thing, and then the pre-orders went up on all of the major websites. I remember that in the West on Best Buy America's website, there was a listing, and you could pre-order it and everything for Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2. That game, as we know now, never went to the West. So you could pre-order that. They didn't have any official confirmation, but it seems like they kind of did it themselves.
Exactly. And also, you got to take into consideration that Best Buy is not a video gaming store. Best Buy is a store that deals with all sorts of electronics to go with it. And while the pre-order system is mainly used for games, it's also used for movies, it's used for cell phones, it's used for anything else that gets announced a little bit early. Like, understanding the culture of video games and being flexible enough to understand that dates change around and some games get canceled halfway through development, and
right.
Yeah, there's kind of a lot of factors, and if you are not a hardcore gamer looking at all this news, trying to stay updated, hey, thanks for listening to the podcast.
Ugh, I can't believe you just said hardcore gamer. Like, just put your head in the sand, why don't you? That's where it belongs.
But yeah, if you're just some Joe Smith working with a blue shirt and a name tag.
Listen, I know several Joe Smiths, and they are decent people.
And I mean, let's look at Metroid Prime Trilogy. I mean, we've been hearing rumors of that game coming out since they pushed back Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah, especially since then.
I think we even talked about it, and earlier this year.
We did.
Yeah. So, I think this is one of those things where it's an interesting rumor. The Persona one is new to me. The Link to the Past, that just seems weird.
That was really strange. It would make more sense if that listing came out before the listing for what is it? Link's Awakening. It would make a lot of sense that, like, oh, they accidentally put that in there, or whatever the hell. But this came out after Link's Awakening. Link's Awakening is already on their website for pre-order. It's odd.
Well, and also, like I said before, if you're just somebody who's entering in the information and you're not in the know enough to actually catch on what makes sense and what doesn't make sense, I can't remember if it was Best Buy, Nintendo, IGN, but that, April 1st Nintendo Direct that they came out with, where everything Zelda is coming to the Switch. Like, if somebody didn't know that was a joke and they just started typing stuff in and they said, hey, no, don't take that down, but it already got listed for like 5 minutes and somebody saw it in that time frame. Like, I can see how that unfortunate chain of events would have come around.
Well, something like that, though, I have to figure it goes through like several approval processes before it goes live, right? I don't know. Yeah, that sound that you're making, I'm also thinking that sound in the back of my head. People would be shocked to know how crappy so many businesses actually run behind the scenes. Like, barely put together with, like, popsicle sticks and tape.
Mm-hmm. It's not even that. It's just coming from a corporate sense of, hey, I want to make sure I have my options available to the customers first, especially when it comes to pre-orders.
Right, especially with pre-orders with video games.
Yeah, because, I mean, yes, okay, a game sells 1 million copies. They've got to pick up that copy from somewhere. There's not one monopolist chain store that is selling all of these games to these people. They come from various different areas. So what is going to entice you to get it from Best Buy versus, let's say, GameStop or Amazon? It's a fast moving, hey, you know what, I want to get my name out there first, so we can say, hey, come pre-order, you know.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, this is kind of interesting. 3 games listed that are just of wildly different likelihoods. Persona 5, it would be shocking if it didn't come to the Switch with all of the recent news that we've heard.
Yeah.
Metroid Prime Trilogy, probably going to come to the Switch at some point. And then A Link to the Past, way out of left field. That really doesn't make sense because they're remaking Link's Awakening. Why would they put out 2 remakes of 2 older 2D Zelda titles in the same year or just in the same general window? It's just strange.
And I would even make the argument that Link to the Past has more of a pedigree to it than Link's Awakening. I feel like that would be bigger news of a Zelda game coming out. Also, these are just the 3 games that we happen to catch. Like, if they've already taken this stuff down, and so many, like 3 really big name titles, what are the smaller ones that went by unnoticed that nobody caught?
Disney Tsum Tsum 2 2. Oh my god. I'm sorry for my dying laughter. So one other little announcement that we have is SEGA. This, by the way, this happened friggin' last week, an hour after we were done recording the podcast. So you know how I said I was going to be like checking the website and everything for updates? Maybe there was a game that was going to be announced by the end of the recording of the podcast. I was doing that. This one came out right after the podcast. SEGA announced the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, the official game for Nintendo Switch. They also announced Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. So big surprise there. Those were for sure going to come out.
Yeah, that is no shock.
I've never played any of those games. I have next to nothing to say about this game.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, they seem fun, but they've always seemed way too gimmicky for me to even want to give it a try.
Yeah, I mean, they seem fun, but I just have so little time and so many games that I keep buying anyway.
Yeah, if I'm going to pick up anything, it is not going to be Tokyo 2020 Olympics as a non-sports playing person.
You're not a sports pro player?
I am not the basketball kicking type. That's what you do in that game, right?
Wow, what a good frickin' joke. So funny. Sorry, that came out with way more disdain on it than I meant. Oh, man.
Your illness is amplifying your cynicism.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's so true. That's good sentence.
That being said, we haven't had a Mario and Sonic game in a while, have we? I
mean, didn't we have one 2 years ago? 4 years ago? I don't remember.
I would assume, but
right.
Thing. Those games like kind of fly under the radar and just like, okay, this is a thing.
Yeah, despite being like huge games with 2 major icons in gaming, arguably the 2 most recognizable icons in gaming, I super don't pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
So cool for people that like to play those games. I have a friend who likes them, so
yeah,
he's gonna be happy, I suppose. 6 days ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, I mean, I have never heard anything particularly bad about the games.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, if I want to see quirky mini games that are played, I'll switch over to Mario Party. I won't do this one.
Yeah, it sort of serves the same function, right?
Exactly. Funny thought, with this coming out right after our podcast last week, maybe we should introduce a new segment where it's like quest update.
No, don't give me more stuff to do, you jackass. So some big news this week is the announcement that Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey are going to be getting some VR support with Nintendo Labo this month. Now, Labo launches at the end of April, I think April 25th or 26th, something like that. And Nintendo is helping push Labo by making this announcement. Now, for Mario Odyssey, Nintendo is implementing, quote, a bite-sized bonus experience, end quote, in the form of 3 mini missions. So it's not like a full VR experience with that game.
Okay.
Then with Zelda, you get to view the world in a different way by toggling a setting in the menu. So it seems, and there's a a trailer on Nintendo's Twitter and also on YouTube as well. So you can check that out there. Based on what I'm seeing, it looks kind of like for Zelda, you are getting the free roaming camera, but just used through your goggles when you're holding it up to your face.
Okay.
So this is all pretty interesting. It's nice that they're adding these in. I'm a little concerned that they might feel shoehorned in. What do you think?
Well, I haven't seen the trailers myself, so going off of your description, yeah, this does seem a little gimmicky and PR pushed.
Yeah, I do like it, though. I think that it's a nice addition, especially because it's free.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I can definitely see the VR being used in both of these aspects for these two games. Mario Odyssey especially, because being able to throw your hat into something and then being told, hey, to put this into whatever cardboard creation. That's a question I have. Do you have to get a separate cardboard kit to put together in order to do this, or will it work with whatever the base VR model is?
It looks like it's the latter. So it works with they call them the Toy-Con goggles, which I think comes in every option of the Labo purchasing thing.
Yeah, it's the standard. It's what actually has the lens kit and allows you to use it in a VR set.
Right.
Okay. You need to build the goggles, but I'm talking like if you throw Mario's hat into that parrot, that always gives you tips on where the next power moon is, and then all of a sudden you take control of the parrot, you put it into like the bird one that you made, and you can flap around as the bird.
No,
like something
that's a
like
great
that.
idea, though. That is exactly not happening at all in this game.
Okay,
but that's a great idea.
so it's just the goggles and nothing else. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, that's what's so interesting about Labo in general, especially Labo VR, is there is so much potential. I don't think people realize the different ways that it can actually be utilized. Because cardboard kits are so easy to make and also kind of fun to make, I'm not gonna lie. But there's like so much potential.
Yeah, totally agree. Apparently Nintendo doesn't realize what the potential is also to some degree, because they just put together like these little mini missions, and I don't know, are you just controlling the camera? It's hard to tell from just the trailer alone, but we'll be seeing at the end of the month exactly how these things are gonna go.
Yeah.
Now, something that I'm concerned about, though, is what I've brought up before. The 720p screen, and then, especially with Zelda, that game runs at 30 frames per second, and then in a couple of areas, sub 30. And, when there's a lot of effects on screen, you can expect a dip. Yeah. How is that going to work with Labo VR? Is it going to give you the crazy heads?
I don't think it will. Like, I'm actually not expecting that much of a change when it comes to it processing-wise.
Yeah.
And I feel like if they are wanting to implement something like VR into these games as a secondary mode or some submissions, they're going to take that frame rate and that processing power into account when they're actually making it.
But with the Zelda one, though, it looks like it's the whole game and you're just like controlling the camera with your VR look around kind of thing. So it's going to be the whole game. They're not doing like side missions for Zelda like they are for Mario.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a few reservations when I hear about this, but I do like that Nintendo is doing it. What I really feel excited about is not the way that they're kind of shoehorning this into two already existing games, how they're going to be using this in the future. Because I'm not much of a fan of VR, as I've said before, but I do recognize the potential and the excitement in creating things that are a unique experience.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I would love for them to be able to make additional kits for pre-existing games.
Sure.
to kind of amplify and increase the resellability of some of their old titles too. Like, imagine coming out with a kit that you would get specifically for Mario Kart, and you put it together, and it's the wheel one. They've made that wheel one before.
Yeah.
But you put that on, it comes with a strap, so you can actually attach the VR kit to your head, so you don't have to be holding it at the same time. And then it switches over to a first-person perspective as you're playing the game. You know, it's very simple, very efficient, and it would be very easy to do. You just have to program in the camera shift.
Yeah, so that is stuff that you can do, but the issue is that the Switch console itself does not have any gyro capabilities in it. It's from the Joy-Con, right? So technically you will have to have 2 sets of Joy-Con unless the wheel itself actually requires more than one set. So you'll have to have 1 set on the actual console and then 1 set in the wheel stuff that you're doing. And hope it doesn't rain because everything's made out of cardboard. You'll be in a soggy car.
Well, if you're playing this outside, then, you know, what are you doing with your life?
No, that's the glory of the Switch. Play it underwater, guys.
Yeah, but you're also doing it in VR. You're putting yourself into another world.
Listen, this world is not great. I've been here for a while.
How's that hangover treating you?
Oh my god, I'm dying. I'm dying, man. So, what I really wanted to say, though, about this is, give me Metroid. Just give me Metroid already. You know, put the VR support into Metroid. It's probably going to make me sick, and I won't be able to play it, but I want to try it for a second and then hate it, but I just want it. Just give it to me already.
If you could do a Metroid Prime in VR, like, that would be freaking amazing.
That's just something that just perfectly works. Same thing with Metroid Prime with the nunchuck and the Wiimote. That was the best use of that controller and that control scheme.
Like, it feels so right.
And I feel the same way with VR. So it's just give me that, please do it. Oh man, if they launch the HD Trilogy Prime, those words are backwards, with the VR Labo also backwards, those sentences and words, that would be wonderful.
Man, and you've got me thinking about all the different options that you can actually have when you're making this. Like, I'm thinking about Mario Party.
Yeah. See, that's what's so exciting about this.
Imagine what you can do if you put VR into it. Oh, man. You know, Mario Party in VR, they already have the mode where you play games with 2 Switch consoles. Just instead of having it on the table, you can link it up to the point where one person's playing VR and then the other 3 players are playing against a guy in VR.
Yeah.
Yeah, tons of stuff for Breath of the Wild. Like, just, you know what? I would be okay with Link's crossbow training coming back.
Why do you keep bringing that shitty game up?
Hey, I suffered through that game and I completed it on principle.
Listen, you sound like one of those people that's actually a secret fan.
Oh, my poor Wii Zapper.
So this week we also had the Famitsu Awards for 2018. There's a lot of different games that got lots of attention. We got the full listing of the winners on our website, so check that out. Out of all of those winners, though, there were several things that I wanted to bring up. Firstly, Octopath Traveler picked up several different awards, including, most importantly to me, Best Game Music. Then, of course, Game of the Year, which, strangely, they chose 2 games for Game of the Year. Usually, that should be one of them, right? Like, it's like having a Best Picture, but you choose 2. Like, whatever, that's cool. There's more than one great game every year, for sure. So, you know what? Fine.
Yeah.
It was Monster Hunter World for PS4, but then for Switch, Smash Ultimate. And, yeah, that game deserves it. That game's a ton of content and so well refined.
2018 was a really good year for the Switch and just Nintendo in general. It's refreshing to see that recognized.
Well, I think that if there's one thing that Smash Ultimate lacks, it's certainly not recognition, though. And then there was the MVP award given to Masahiro Sakurai. And that's good, but also that man has very unhealthy working habits. I don't know if we should be supporting, you know.
The guy is pushing himself. All right, don't support this.
Anyway, he won the award. That's cool. And then also, Best Character Award was given to Kirby. That was kind of out of left field, but you know what? I frickin' love Kirby. Fine with it.
Hi.
Hey, good.
No, thank you. I wasn't sure how that was going to come out.
Hi.
And then some news that just came out not too long ago was sort of an announcement, so we don't have too much news about it yet. News that Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft are under investigation pertaining to online gaming contracts. Now, this is a bit of a high-level stuff here. It's not really high-level stuff, but I'm just going to read the article because keep you informed.
Mm-hmm.
Our article states, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft are all having business practices investigated by the Competition and Markets Authority. The three companies have received letters requesting information about online gaming contracts. Games Industry reports that, quote, the CMA intends to examine whether the contract terms are fair, how easy it is to cancel a pre-order or obtain a refund, and how the auto-renewal process is regarding things like regular reminders and default settings, end quote. So this is pretty interesting, and I suppose if it is as simple as just making sure that it is fair for consumers, especially when you pre-order something and then want to cancel it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for this. I think that all three of them should have clauses where you can delete the game or delete your pre-order and then it deletes the game and everything like that. I'm sure that like technically that's probably a bit of a nightmare and it's kind of hard for the console to truly delete the game without unlocking it, and you know, people pirating stuff by pre-ordering and then canceling, and you know what I mean. I'm sure that is a nightmare that they're going to have to deal with, though, because you have to pay attention to consumer affairs. And I think that this is probably going to be good for consumers ultimately, and it's a good thing. We don't know yet. We're going to have to see how this goes.
I think this is a good step to sort of correcting some of the complaints that people have been having in the past. And it's funny, I'm looking at this in regards to pre-orders, but I'm also looking at the broader scope of it and how they do automatic renewals, especially when it comes to their monthly services. So this one's geared more directly towards like Sony and Microsoft more, but they set themselves in an environment where if you want full use and sometimes to be able to play any of these games, you need to have this monthly subscription. They're kind of like pigeonholing you into needing to have this month or this yearly or monthly service. So when you make changes to it, well, you're kind of like SOL. Like there's nothing you can do. There's no competitor you could really go to unless you wanted to get set up with a completely separate console. Take Sony, for example. Sony recently went ahead and changed. They've been giving away free games for their PlayStation Plus membership ever since they've like had the service, as far as I can remember. And just recently, they have switched it up where instead of getting 2 free PlayStation 4 games, 2 free PlayStation 3 games, and 2 free PlayStation Vita games, well, those other 2, they're just knocking off the list. Now
it's just PS4 games now.
Yeah, you're just getting PS4 games, which is understandable. I mean, the Vita and the PS3 are definitely older consoles. It does make a lot of sense, especially if they do plan on discontinuing those networks anytime soon. Not that I'm saying they are, but I can see them making preparations for that, considering the age of the consoles. If they are taking steps for that, well, we're still getting less games than we had before, but we're still paying the same price. I can see how that would cause some complaints with people who are thinking, hey, I am getting less and still having to pay more. Like, the cost of these free games have just gone up.
I don't think that that's a healthy way to look at it as a consumer. And I know that you're sort of being devil's advocate here.
Yeah, I don't think it is a healthy way to look at it because it's very, oh god, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's very privileged And then like, well, I'm not getting what I was expecting to get, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's kind of that kind of an attitude. But my question is, why are they looking into this now when these kind of practices have been out for almost a decade?
So I think that this has been sort of sparked because of, God, where was it? I think it was a Scandinavian country that somebody was trying to cancel a pre-order on a game. I can't remember if this was on a Nintendo console or if it was on a different console, and they couldn't, they were saying, oh, you can't, like, according to our terms and conditions, you can't cancel. And according to the laws in that country, like, if you had not actually received a product, you can always cancel that product because you have not paid for any goods that have been, or goods or services that have been rendered. So their online clauses or statements went against that country's laws. So the country then said to, I think it was Nintendo, that you have to reverse this purchase. And so I think from there, this is where it is being set off, I think. And I'm standing by and looking at this as, what does this mean from a real world mindset? Like, what is this going to change? What could this possibly affect? And I mean, if they're going to be targeting pre-orders specifically, like, pre-orders have been a huge thing for the past couple of years, and they're only getting bigger in the digital stores.
They're only getting bigger, and every time you pre-order a game, it's a complete and utter gamble. Like, I think of all the games that have been completely hyped up, and with all the incentives of, hey, pre-order now to get, such and such, bikini skin, or such and such ultra weapon that only has like 3 damage to it.
Or
like,
pre-order now to get the pack of items that makes your game easier and not very challenging and not fun.
Pre-order now to play as Shao Kahn. It's like, put him in the freaking game to begin with. I mean, what are you doing?
Yeah. I think that we should have like a whole show where we kind of talk about something like this, because I have strong feelings. I have opinions about pre-orders.
Oh, I'm right there with you. And I would love to have that conversation for another day. Going back to what I was saying, I mean, every time you play a game, you're taking a gamble on if that game is going to be good. I'm thinking of all the ones that have completely screwed over players. I mean, I'm not going to...
Oh man, this goes right into my additional DLC. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at Alien Colonial Marines. You're looking at Anthem. You're looking at just a slew of other really disappointing games that did not live up to the hype. Watch Dogs is another one that came to mind. I mean, Watch Dogs was good, but it blatantly lied on what you were getting in the game with how the game looks, what you could do in the game, and how it felt.
Yeah, actually, there's been lots of games and companies, publishers that have done this. EA, but I meant to say Ubisoft actually is super...
EA and Ubisoft are kind of the big two
offenders, right?
Yeah, in this situation.
But it's not limited to just them. I think even Nintendo is guilty of this to a small degree. But I mean, that's why, like, according to pre-orders and stuff like that, I almost never pre-order anything because it is not good for the video game industry. It is super not good for the industry at all. The only stuff that I can pre-order is stuff that I know will be of good quality. Like, for example, I pre-ordered Zelda and a Switch, and I have good faith based on history with Nintendo that those are going to be good games.
Well, and they've also established this, this FOMO, this fear of missing out mentality.
Yeah, that's a really fantastic social phenomenon that's happening, especially with millennial and younger generations. It's just getting worse.
Exactly. And like, so an example I can use recently is they announced Borderlands 3. I'm very excited about this game. I'm a huge fan of the series, and I have good faith that the game is going to uphold that standard of quality. So I decided I was going to pre-order it. I went on, found out they have 3 different editions, because it's a AAA game. Of course it freaking does.
Yeah, it's intentionally confusing your consumers. It really is.
Yeah. Well, and they were pretty straightforward with what this one was. They have your standard version, which is just the game. They have their deluxe version, which comes with a season pass or with some like additional content. They have their super deluxe, which includes the additional content and the season pass for it. And then they have the Diamond Loot Box edition. And the Diamond Loot Box comes with all of that, but it comes with the physical, actual collector's items as well. It comes with a bunch of figures. It comes with a cloth map. It comes with a replica of one of the actual loot boxes in the game. And it was a higher price. It was like $250 American dollars, but it was... The content in there was... I could justify that.
Oh my god, you're doing it. I knew you were going to do that.
Anyway, that's besides the point.
Listen to this pre-order game apologist right here. Shame him.
That's not my point. My point is...
Because it doesn't fit your narrative.
Yeah, of course. It doesn't fit the narrative.
I'm trying to hold back these coughs and laughters. But you're ruining me with your outrageous nonsensicisms.
Anyway, so you had these 4 different options. I went to go pre-order the one that I wanted to, and I noticed that this was like the day that they announced it, mind you. And I went to go and actually pre-order, and I wanted to just take a look to see where I could get the premium version from, and it was already sold out.
But of course.
They had completely sold out of all the copies that they were going to be making within like 2 or 3 hours from them actually announcing this thing. And we had just gotten a launch date for it. They had just told everybody about it.
Yeah.
And there's already this mentality of, I need to get this right now or else I will never get it. There was no time to process. There was no time to think, well, is this actually something that I want? They've created a generalized environment where if you do not do this now, you are going to miss out on everything that you need.
Yeah, they're capitalizing on that fear of missing out.
And you're not going to... You make this impulse decision, and if you go to, like, try to change your mind, well, there are a slew of different complications and problems to go with it. And the game comes out so many months from now, and if you're like, hey... things have changed, I don't necessarily want this anymore, those same complications kind of come in. So what they're doing, the fact that they're starting to look into these kind of things...
Oh my god, I forgot we were talking about this story. Thank you for bringing it around.
Right. You're welcome. The fact that they are looking into these kind of things, I'm really hoping that it has an impact on that kind of mentality.
I really don't think it will, but that's very wishful, and I appreciate wishful thinking. Right behind you on that.
Yeah, if it's not this investigation exactly, I hope it will at least open up the doors of conversation for a wider, broader look at things.
Yeah.
So that we can start talking about these kind of problems.
Yeah. We could have a whole episode where we talk about that crap, too. Let's start writing this stuff down so we can do a special episode.
Today on a very special episode of Nintendo Everything.
Why? That sounded like a mystery show. A mystery show about missing children.
Dun dun.
Okay, let's move on because I've got minutes left to live. I do. So this week, my additional DLC is a very quick one. It is an article on Kotaku written by Jason Schreier. It is a investigative piece. I don't know if I said that word right. It's weird. It's weird. It is about Anthem and the 6 or 7 year history of its development. It's pretty fascinating. They talk to a lot of anonymous developers from behind the game, and it's sort of exposing a lot of the bad practices behind game development in a lot of AAA industries. I think that is really important to bring that to the forefront and teach the world about what's going on.
Specifically EA when it comes to like their development practices and whatnot.
Yeah, EA has constantly been voted like worst company in America or something like that. They're not a great publisher. These last couple of years they've been buying up studios and then closing them down when they have one failure, and it's usually because of bad management as opposed to talent. Talent keeps leaving because they see this happening. Anyway, it's a great investigative piece and really important so that way these things can change.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not like a super big fan of like Kotaku or Jason Schreier, even in the grand scheme of things. I've seen him sort of defend some stuff on Twitter that I've been like, what the hell? Like, that is really weird. But I barely know anything about it, to be honest. So I barely know anything about him. However, what I want to say is that he definitely is a great journalist, and he always does really interesting pieces like this, and I always appreciate his work. And this is one that you guys should all check out.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned this as your additional DLC. I haven't read this article myself personally because it's kind of a decent chunked article lengthwise.
Yeah,
but
it's very, very long. I had to read it over the course of like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah. Now, there's some really good information in there, and I've been hearing a lot of it referenced to by some other people who've been talking about this topic in general. And some of the things that you find out about it, like how this game has been in pre-production for like 6 or 7 years, and then it only had 1 year of actual development. Like, they kept changing their minds on what they wanted to do, and it's those little like factoids and tidbits that kind of come to light that you're sitting there and like, oh, well, this is why this game didn't perform nearly as well as everybody wanted it to. Like,
and this rolls right into why you don't want to pre-order freaking games too.
Right. I might actually read this article myself.
You should,
I'm glad
because
you brought it up.
you were really interested in Anthem, and I mean, I'm sorry for you that this was not the game that you were expecting it to be. So yeah, I think that you will like it.
Cool.
And then how about you? What do you have for the DLCs?
So mine is a little bit more on the calmer side, literally. Mine is the Relaxing End YouTube channel. I really like these guys because what they do is they do unboxings of just like collector's items and just newer things in general. But they usually tend towards what does I want to say? Like video game items. So they unbox a lot of those high-end collector's items, like the 250 loot box edition that I was just talking about. Like, that's something that they would do. And it's funny how they put together the videos, because it's not some guy talking about, oh, hey, look at this. Wow, Liz is so sweet. Yeah, it's none of that.
Is it like ASMR unboxing?
Actually, it is.
Yeah, that's a pretty big ASMR subgenre, and I can get behind that. As long as it's not like mouth sounds and chewing. Ugh.
Yeah, no, the guy starts off by putting on these like white auctioneer's gloves and then putting on like a little bit of a suit and everything. No words at all. And it's just him like wiping his hand on the top of the box just to like make sure that there's no dust or anything on it. But he increased the gain on his microphone. It's a little like elitist with the way that he's like
be crapping
presenting
on something
it.
that you are trying to recommend to people. I'm such a jerk right now. It's the sickness. I'm down with the sickness currently.
Yeah, it's really kind of soothing with the way that he does everything. And you get to kind of live vicariously for some of these items. Like one of the ones that he did recently was it was unboxing a Borderlands 2 loot chest edition. And while I was interested when this game originally came out in 2012, I never had a chance to open one myself. So seeing him like open everything up and take everything out one item by one, I was able to like live vicariously through that, which I kind of enjoyed. It was very relaxing. So I recommend it.
So check out links in our description. So now let's move on to the email.
Yeah, listener mail. I'm not going to do a song this week. I'm too tired.
Here we go again with the email. Every week we hope it's from a female. See, I had a song prepared. That's Strong Bad. That was what Strong Bad always said.
Wow, 2006 much?
Hey, that show holds up. That's a really funny show.
I'll give you that. It's classic.
So how about you read this email since I am on my way into the grave. I got like not even just 1 foot. I got like a foot and part of my head in there.
I would very gladly like to read these emails.
Very gladly
and
like to, with stalling for time with words trying to find the email. Oh my god. Just go. I'm dying.
And if you people at home would like us to
Jesus,
read your
that part,
emails-
yeah.
I said I would give you a little bit of slack because you're sick, but yeah, you're dropping the ball here. But if you guys would like to have us read your emails, you can always email us at nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com. Oni, what's that email?
Send your emails to nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com.
And if you send us an email, it might sound something like this. Mike writes, "Hey guys, loving the podcast, and I look forward to it every week." Thanks, Mike. Even though this is a Nintendo podcast, I like that you talk about non-Nintendo stuff a bit too. So I have a question along these lines. I've been playing Sekiro on PlayStation 4 lately, and I'm loving it. But a couple of days into playing the game, I was hit with a realization that there was another game that got announced around the same time that I was confusing with Sekiro. The game Ghost with Tsushima. Have you gotten the two games incredibly confused because they either got announced or came out around the same time? Thanks for the email, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. By the way, you misread his thing. It's called Ghosts of Tsushima. He wrote it right. You spoke it wrong.
What did I say?
You said Ghosts with Tsushima.
I said with?
Didn't you? I don't know. We can't play it back
I thought
right
I said
now.
of. Well, you're editing all this, so...
Yeah, I'm just going to replace you with like a duck the whole time. There it is.
Anyway.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I actually had to look both of these games up because I needed to remember what they were exactly. I totally get where you're coming from on this email. Both games are very they have that feudalistic Japan stylization to it, and I could very easily see how the two would be confused with each other just by screenshots alone. Gameplay wise, they are very different games. Ghost of Tsushima is much more narrative driven, and there's a lot more, like, the combat system is very different, where Sekiro is more...
It's Soulsy.
Well, yeah, because it's from software. Like, of course it's going to be Dark Soulsy, but it's much more fantastical when it comes to, like, its enemy types and things like that.
Oh, okay. Ghost of Tsushima is like...
It's more realistic, like you're actually fighting feudalistic warlords and bandits and things like that. So, but the way, like, the color palettes are, the way that the landscape is designed, I can very easily see how these two would be confused.
Yeah, so for me, there was... God, I had to look up the other name of the game, too, because I forgot it. I would get Battleborn confused with Lawbreakers all of the time. And, like, it shocked me because for months I thought, like, there was only one game, and then I realized it was actually two games that I'd always been looking at. And I was like, ugh, this is... Battle Royale was a mistake. But, like, all those, by the way, all those titles suck, too. The Battleborn, Fortnite. It's just two words that you put into one word, and you put a weird emphasis on the syllable, and I don't like it. I don't like it.
And actually, I got PUBG and Fortnite confused for, like, just a name alone, and when people were talking about it, like, in my mind, I got those confused for, like, the first 3 weeks until I actually sat down and looked at what Fortnite was.
Yeah, because it looks totally different.
Oh, yeah. No, it's very different. But when you start talking about these... I feel like you have this problem every time you talk about a game that is sharing a genre with another popular game. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be completely honest. Battlefield and Call of Duty, if you showed those games to me side by
I
side,
have no
could not
freaking
tell you
idea.
the difference.
Yeah, no idea.
Could not tell you. I know Battlefield is much more open landscape and a larger destructible world, where Call of Duty is much more fine-tuned and whatever. It's
I
like-
have no knowledge of either.
to me, it's the same thing because they're both first-person shooters, you know? So I understand how those confusions happen, and I feel like they happen with everybody.
Another game that I always get confused is I get Mario confused with Fatal Frame, like all the time.
Yeah? That's a thing that happens to you?
Constantly. It just, Japanese horror ghosts and booze, they just look so much alike. Let's quit. Let's quit. Let's save and quit.
Dying Squirtle.
So check out next week on the episode podcast of this, where I maybe did. Yep. Let's tune in next week.
Have to find a new host.
Startling conclusion where I may be dead. We got a bunch of junk all up on our website. Lots of great stuff. Shouldn't have called it junk, but I did. Not editing that. Our website is nintendoeverything.com.
It's the sickness. He's down with the sickness.
We also got the Twitters and the YouTubes. Those are both nin everything, youtube.com and the @Twitters. And then my Twitter, where you can get updates on my health, is at Oni_Dino.
Updates on your health, or therefore lack of.
Yeah, you'll be able to know ahead of time if I'm still alive or not. And then you'll get probably pictures on my Instagram, where I will probably show an IV drip or something at some point, just like Sakurai.
But it'll have like a nice filter on it.
It will. My Instagram is at Oni__Dino. And then Mr. Galen.
As always, check out me on Twitter at Mobius087. And if you enjoy two fools who enjoy playing games and talking about them, we are still going strong on Resident Evil 2, our playthrough, at Super Turbo Fighters. That Twitter is at Super Turbo Fight for updates on the latest episodes. And you can watch the episodes themselves on YouTube.
Yes. And
Yes.
if you support me not dying, please share this podcast with people. Oh god, I'm trying to hold my soul inside of my body right now. It's difficult. And for everything Nintendo,
Stay tuned to Nintendo Everything.
bye.